Hello, my name is Daurys Ramirez. I am a computer science major on my second year at Bloomsburg. Today I will be talking about the global semiconductor war. I chose this topic because semiconductors are the foundation of nearly all modern technology, so control over their production directly impacts economic power, technological innovation, and national security for countries like the United States and China. So, to get started, what is the semiconductor war? As I have said before, the global semiconductor war is a geopolitical competition among major powers like the United States and China to control the production and supply of advanced microchips, which are essential to economic strength, technological innovation, and national security. Microchips are one of the most important resources in the world because they power everyday technology such as smartphones, cars, and medical devices. They are also required to run AI systems, and companies like NVIDIA design chips specifically for things like machine learning and large-scale computing. These chips are also extremely important for national security since they are used in military weapon systems, satellites, and cybersecurity infrastructure. They also drive the global economy because semiconductors are in the center of global industries such as consumer electronics, telecommunications, and energy systems. Finally, they shape global power because only a few places like Taiwan and South Korea can produce the most advanced chips, which creates a situation where global supply chains are fragile, geopolitical tensions increase, and countries compete for control. So, the two main actors of the global microchip conflict are the United States and China. Based on an article by Medium, this conflict started to escalate in 2018 when the US government imposed restrictions on semiconductor exports to China. And in 2019, the Trump administration banned US companies from selling semiconductors to China's biggest telecommunication company, Huawei. The following years resulted in the expansion of these sanctions, including applying the Foreign Direct Product Rule, which allows the US government to restrict foreign made products from being sold in certain countries if they were made using American technology or equipment. This leads China to shift its focus into domestic research and development of semiconductors and self reliance. To continue our timeline, in 2022, the Biden administration passes the CHIPS and Science Act, which aimed to boost U.S. semiconductor manufacturing, research, and development. At the same time, the U.S. continued to impose export controls on advanced chips and semiconductor manufacturing equipment against China. However, in 2023, progress of domestic chip development in China was evidenced by Huawei reported increase in revenue despite of sanctions imposed by the US. In response, the US tightened export control even further, but China continued to focus on a new technology that bypassed traditional chips limitations. So Taiwan in the center of it all. Taiwan now makes more than half the chips that power our lives. Its biggest manufacturer, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC, is the ninth most valuable business in the world. Taiwan's dominance of the chip manufacturing industry relies on a network of economic ties that the US-China rivalry is looking to damage. Taiwan's reign over microchip production is due to several factors, including specialization, because while many companies designed and manufactured microchips, Taiwanese companies such as TSMC would leave the design process up to other companies like Apple and NVIDIA, which allowed them to focus solely on the manufacturing and making chips better than anyone else. This would later be known as the foundry model. Secondly, government investment also played a big role in securing Taiwan's position in chip manufacturing. Since the 1970s, the Taiwanese government has heavily invested in semiconductor research, education, and engineering talent and infrastructure to create a strong ecosystem for their fabrication companies. Lastly, making cutting-edge chips is extremely difficult, and TSMC leads in smaller more powerful chips, high production quality, and reliability at scale, which very few companies in the world can do. As a result of this, China has been trying to poach Taiwanese talent and manufacturing equipment towards its goals of self-reliance. To make matters worse, China already claims Taiwan as part of its own territories, so an invasion is seeming to be increasingly possible. China's efforts to escape the international containment set in place by the US has raised tensions between the two countries also. More broadly, the global semiconductor war affects everyone because it influences supply chains, prices of everyday electronics, advancements in AI, and even the balance of global power. Meaning, decisions made in this industry can shape the future of global economy and international relations. Some of the effects we're starting to see today are rising tensions as the US and China continue to compete over power and control. We also see a fragmentation of global technology systems as countries are beginning to split into separate ecosystems, with one side containing US aligned supply chains while the other side supports China, which leads to a restriction on sharing technology and inefficiency. There are also economic impacts due to supply chain disruptions. Semiconductor shortages result in production delays affecting multiple economic sectors. Finally, increased cost and inefficiency is also a result of this conflict. Dividing supply chains has resulted in higher production costs and duplicated infrastructure. Therefore, consumers can expect to face higher prices for technology. To conclude, the best way to address the semiconductor war is through a combination of international cooperation, diversified supply chains, and balanced policies that protect national security while maintaining global economic stability. However, the semiconductor war cannot be fully be eliminated because it is driven by competition and power, but it can be managed through these efforts. I hope you learned something new, and this is all I had for today. Thank you.